Hello everybody, today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on the to-do list app in MIT App Inventor. And before we get started with the tutorial, I'm going to show you how the app works and what it should do. So here I have the app pulled up on my screen, and the first screen that we encounter is a password page. And so you're able to enter in your password. Mine is just 12345. And if you enter your password, it's going to take you to this page that has a to-do list title. It has a box where you can enter in your text, and it has 3 buttons: an enter item button, an erase item button, and a clear all button. So you can click on the text box and put whatever you want. I'm just going to say go to class, and I'm going to enter the item. And as you can see, it pops up in this list view. And then if I do something else like call mom and enter the item, it also pops up. And what's cool about this app is that it utilizes a TinyDB, which is a local storage component. So if I were to exit out of this app and I just click it back, it's going to take me back to the password page. I can enter in my password, and as you can see, my things are still there, like the go to class and call mom. It hasn't been erased yet. So now I can click on one of them, erase it, and then if I were to exit the app again, just completely close it and then open it back up, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can see that it's still there. And then if I click the clear all, it's just going to clear everything that's in the list view. And so that is how the app works. So before we get started in actually going into App Inventor and building the app, I just want to talk very quickly about what local storage and cloud storage is, because this is the first time we're going to use TinyDB, which is a local storage component. So local storage is going to be physically on your device, kind of like a hard drive or just any hardware that can store things physically on your phone, your tablet, your computer. While cloud storage here, it's going to be stored in servers, like into the cloud. If you've ever used like Google storage or your iCloud, that gets stored into the cloud, and then you can pull it from other devices since it's going to be stored on servers, versus where local storage, it's going to be stored physically on your device, so no other device can access it, only the one that it's stored in. So for this app, if you were to download the app on someone else's phone, it's not going to store what you have on your device, because that's stored on your hard drive hardware, versus the other person, their list views is going to be stored on their physical hard drive, if that makes sense. And so I just want to give some background before we started on our app. So let's get started in building our app by navigating over to the Creates App section in MIT App Inventor. It should look like what I have on my screen, and we want to make sure we're first using the correct user interface. So we're going to go up to Settings, User Interface Settings, make sure that Neo is selected, and then press OK. And then we're going to create a new project. I'm going to name this one My To-Do List, just like that, and click OK. So it should take you to this page where you have your device and the components on the left hand side. And the first screen we're going to set up is going to be the password screen, which is very similar to what we did for password per. So I'm just going to start adding some components. The first thing I'm going to add is going to be a label, so I'm going to drag this label onto my device. And then I'm going to change some of its properties. So for width, I'm going to have it fill parent. For the text, I'm going to have it enter password to access to-do list, just like that. And then for the text alignment, I want it to be centered, so I'm going to click center. And then the font size, I'm going to make a little bigger. I'm going to make it 20, so it should look like this. And I want the label to be centered not only horizontally on the screen, but also vertically. And to do so, I'm going to go up to screen 1, click align horizontal center, and align vertical center. So it should look like this. The next thing I'm going to add is going to be the password text box. So I'm just going to drag in this password text box, just like that. And then we don't need to change any of its components. And the last thing that I'm going to add is going to be the password enter button. So I'm going to drag in this button over here. I'm going to rename this component to password button and click OK. And I'm going to change some of its properties. So I'm going to make the background color of it green. I'm going to make the shape of it rounded. And then for the text, I'm just going to have it say enter, just like that. And then I'm going to make the font size a little bigger. I'm going to make this 24 so I can see it. And these are all the components that we are going to need for the password screen. So we can move on to creating another screen for our to-do list. So I'm going to click up here, this plus. And for screen 2, I'm going to rename it my to-do list screen, just like that, and click OK. It should bring you to this new page where you have an empty device. And so let's start putting some components on this screen. So the first thing I'm going to put in is a label, and I'm just going to pop that in right here. I'm going to rename this to title label, just like this, and click OK. And then I'm going to change some of its components. So the font size I'm going to make 24. And then the text I'm going to change to to-do list, just like this. And then I want it to be centered, so I'm going to click on my to-do list screen, go at the top, align horizontal, and centered. So it should look like this. And then the next thing I want to add is a text box where the user can enter in kind of the things that they want to do. So I'm going to go over to text box, plop that in here, and then I'm going to rename this to do text box, just like that, and click OK. And then I'm going to just change some of its components. So I'm going to make the width of it fill parent, and make sure multi-line is selected. And that's all we need for the text box. So next I want to add in a horizontal arrangement to store the 3 buttons that we're going to have, the enter item button, the erase item button, and the clear all button. And so to do that, we're going to go down to layout, drag in this horizontal arrangement here, and then I'm going to change some of its components. I'm going to make the height 20%, and then the width I'm going to fill parent like this. And now we can add buttons inside of our horizontal arrangement. So let's go up, grab a button, and then make sure that it's inside this horizontal arrangement and just plop it down. And I'm going to rename this one to enter item button, just like that. And then I'm going to make the font a little bigger to 24. For the height, I'm going to have it fill parent. And then the width, I'm going to make it 30%, just like that. The shape, I'm going to make it rounded. And then for the text, I'm going to make this enter item, just like that. And then I want to make this color, this button color, green, because when the user enters the item, the green kind of indicates that it's okay, or it's like good to go. And now I'm going to do the next button, so I'm going to just drag in another button right here. I'm going to rename this to erase item button, just like that. Click OK. And then again, I'm going to make the font size 24. Height, I'm going to have it fill parent. Width, I'm going to do 30%. And then the shape, I'm going to make it rounded. And the text is going to be erase item, just like that. And then this button, I'm going to make the color of it orange, because you're just erasing one item versus like clearing the whole thing. And then the last button I'm going to add, I'm going to make sure it's after the erase item button. I'm going to rename this to clear all button, just like that. And then for the components, I'm going to make the font size 24. I'm going to make the height fill parent and the width 30%. That. The shape, I'm going to make it rounded again, and the text is going to be clear all, just like that. And this button I'm going to make red, just so it indicates to the user that everything is going to be erased. We also want to make sure that on our screen that the buttons will be aligned in the center. So to do that, we're going to go to horizontal arrangement, and then under align horizontal, we're going to click center. So now that the buttons are done, we're going to want to put in the actual list view where the user can see all their list items pop up. And to do so, we're going to go over to the left, drag in this list view under all the buttons, and it'll pop up here. We're going to rename this to to-do list view and click OK. And then we're going to change the font size of it to 30. And then the height we're going to fill parent, and the width we're going to fill parent. And so this is what it's going to look like. And the last component we need is going to be the actual TinyDB component, so that we're able to store our list in the database. And to do so, we're going to go over to the left, go all the way down to storage, and just this TinyDB component we're going to drag over our screen, and it should pop up down here in the non-visible components. And this is all that we're going to need for the components of our app, and so we can get started on the blocks. So let's go up to the screen, go back to screen 1, and click on blocks. So for screen 1, this is going to be the password page. So we want to check when the user clicks on the enter button that the password is correct, and it'll take them to the to-do list screen, and if not, it's just going to reset the password text box. So in order to do that, we're going to go down on the left to password button, and we're going to drag in this when password button dot click block, and then we want to do an if then else statement. So let's go up to control and drag in this if then else statement. And for the if section, we want to check that the password is correct, so we're going to go into logic and drag in this equals block. Then we want to go down to password text box 1 and grab in the text from that text box, so this block. And then we want to make sure that it's equal to what we want our password to be. So we're going to go into text, at the very top drag in this, and then the password I'm going to set is 12345, just like that. And if the password is correct, we want to open a new screen. So we're going to go up to control, and then go down to open another screen. And the screen we want to open is going to be the My To-Do List screen. And if the password is incorrect, then we're just going to reset the password text box. So we're going to go to password text box 1, and we're going to drag in the set password text box 1.text and drag in an empty text just like this. And this is all the blocks that we're going to need for the first screen. And now we can move on to the second screen by going up here and clicking on My To-Do List screen. It should bring you to this empty page. So to get started in the My To-Do List blocks, the first thing we want to do is initialize a global variable where we can store the actual list of every single item that the user inputs. So how we're going to do that is we're going to go over to the left, go to variables, and drag in this initialize global block. And for the name, I'm going to name this variable to-do list, just like this. And we want to initialize it to an empty list first. So drag in this create empty list, and this is what it should look like right now, just like that. And so the next thing we want to do is do with all the buttons that we have. So the enter item button, the erase item button, and the clear all button. So let's do the enter item button first. So go all the way down to the enter item button, and then drag in this when enter item button dot click. And so when that is clicked, we want to add whatever the user put in the text box into our list, and we want to put that list into our database, into the TinyDB, and then we want to display that list to the user in the list view. So the first thing we want to do is add the actual item to our list, and to do so, we're going to go up to list, drag in this add items to list, and the list that we're working with is our global variable list. So go up to this, hover over it, get to-do list and plop that in the list. And so the item that we want is going to be the text in the text box. So let's go to the left, hover over to to-do text box, and go down to to-do text box.text, and just plop that in there. And now once we have added the item to the list, we want to store that list into our database to make sure that it is stored there and we can grab it when we want. So let's go down to TinyDB, and we're going to call tinydb.storeValue. And then for the tag we want to store, we're going to go up, go to text, and drag in this empty text. And I'm going to name our to-do list component my to-do list, just like that. And that's going to be the tag that we're going to use to indicate to the device that our list is going to be stored under that name. And what we want to store is our global variable to-do list. So we're going to go up here, get global to-do list, and plop it into the value to store. And so now we want to set the to-do list view so that the user can see what they put in. So let's go over to to-do list view, and we're going to set to-do list view.elements, this block right here, and then we're going to set it to our global to-do list, like that. And then we want to reset the text box so that the user can enter in more things. So let's go over to to-do text box. We're going to set to text box.text and go up to text and drag in this empty text box. So that's all that's going to happen when the user clicks the enter item button. And now we want to do the erase item button. So let's go down to erase item button and when erase item button dot click. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the user has selected one of the items that they have, and to check that we're going to go up to controls and drag in this if then statement, and then we're going to want to drag in this logic and drag this in the if. So we want to go down to the list view and check whether the user has selected something. So we're going to go down to to-do list view dot selection index. So it's going to be this one. And how the selection index works is that the list items are indexed by 1. So the first thing is going to be 1, the second thing is going to be 2, 3, and so on. And if the selection index is 0, that means that nothing has been selected. So we want to make sure that the selection index is not 0. So we're going to do this, it's not equal, and go up to our math and put in this 0. So if the selection index is not 0, which means something has been selected, then we want to remove that. So let's go over to the list, and we want to go down to remove list item. And the list we want is going to be our global to-do list. And the index is going to be our selection index. So let's go over to to-do list view and go down to the selection index. And so that's going to remove that item from our list. And now we want to restore that list since a change has been made to our TinyDB. So what we can do is, since we already have created this procedure where we store our to-do list, we can just right-click this, duplicate, and just drag this into here under this. So that's just going to do the same thing. It's going to store our to-do list into our TinyDB under the same tag. But now we want to make sure that it actually visually gets removed from the list view. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to to-do list view. We're going to set the elements. So let's do set to-do list view elements to, and then our global to-do list right here. And then we want to also make sure that we reset the selection index to make sure that now nothing is selected. So let's go over to to-do list view, and we're going to go down to set the to-do list view selection index, and then we're going to set it to 0. So let's go to math all the way up and set it to 0. And so now we have dealt with the erase item button, and the last thing we want to deal with is the clear all button. So let's go down and do the clear all button. So when the clear all button is clicked, what we want to do is we want to set our global to-do list. So let's go over here and set, and we want to set it to an empty list. So it's going to have nothing in it, so we're just going to drag in this create empty list. And then we want to go to our TinyDB and just clear that list that we have. So let's go over to TinyDB, and we're going to clear tag. And the tag we want to clear is the tag that we use. So we can click on this My To-Do List, right click, duplicate, and it's just going to make another one, and we can put that tag in here. So that's just going to empty that to-do list. It's going to clear it from the database. It's going to erase that. So now there's no longer our list in that database. And then we want to make sure that the user visually sees everything get erased. So let's go over to to-do list view, and we're going to set the elements, dragging this block, to the empty list. So we can go up to list and create empty list. And that's all we're going to do. Now we want to make sure that when we close the app and we open it again, that everything that was in our database gets pulled and put back into our global variable. And to do that, we want to make sure that when the screen is initialized, we call on the TinyDB and we grab the list from the tag. So let's go over to the left-hand side, click on My To-Do List screen, and drag in the when My To-Do List screen.initialize. And so when the screen is initialized, we want to make sure that we pull from the database into our global to-do list variable. So let's go over here, and we're going to drag in the set global to-do list to, and then we're going to go down to TinyDB, and we're going to call tinydb.getValue, and the tag that we want to call is this My To-Do List. So we're going to duplicate this and just put it in the tag. But say we have erased everything and the tag is no longer there, what we want to set it to, if we can't pull anything from the database, is an empty list. So we're going to get rid of this. We're going to go all the way up to list, create empty list, and put that in there. And then if there was something and we grabbed all of that information from there, we want to make sure that it appears on the screen in the list view. So let's go over to to-do list view, and we're going to set the elements of this to the global to-do list. So get global to-do list, just like that. And so let me make sure that everything we have is there. So let's go over the logic. First, we're going to initialize the global to-do list to an empty list, and then when the screen is initialized, we're going to make sure that we set the global to-do list to the My To-Do List that's stored in the database, and if there's nothing stored in the database, we're going to just make an empty list, and then we're going to set our elements in the list view to our global to-do list, because we might have pulled a bunch of things from there. And then when the enter item button is clicked, it's going to add that item to the list. It's going to store that whole list in the database, and then it's going to just visually put the items in the to-do list view. And then it's kind of the same thing with erase item button. It's just going to take that item out of the list, store the new list in the database, and then remove that list from the list view. And then when the clear all button is clicked, it's just going to reset the global variable to an empty list, and it's going to clear whatever we had in the database, and it's going to show in the list view an empty list, so nothing will be there. And that is all we need for our app. So let's connect it to our device. And for this app, I would recommend that you build it and then you physically download it on your app so that you can more easily see when you click out of the app and then we click back on. To do so, we're going to go to Build. You're going to press Android App, Android APK, and it's just going to build the app for you. And then a QR code is going to pop up. I'm just going to wait for it to build the app. It might take a little bit. So once it has built the app, it's going to show you this QR code. And what you can do is that you can scan the QR code with your device, and then it's just going to bring you to a web page where you can download the app, and then and you can open it on your device. So it's going to show up as an actual app icon, and you can just use it. So I'm just going to do that with my device and then show you guys on my screen. So here's my screen. I'm going to click onto the app, and this is what the password page looks like. I'm going to enter in my password. And as you can see, if I enter the password, it's going to take me to the to-do list screen. And let me just add some tasks. So let me say call mom. I'm going to enter that in. I'm going to enter in buy groceries. And then the last thing I'm going to enter in is clean room. As you can see, all of the items pop up on the list view. And then if I just select one and I erase it, as you can see, it's gone. And then now I'm going to completely exit out of the app and go back into it and enter in my password again. It's going to be 12345. And as you can see, the call mom and clean room tasks are still there. And if I were to just clear all of them and completely exit out of the app and go back into it, 4, 5, as you can see, it's a completely empty list view. And that is the app that we have created, and I hope you had so much fun building it. Now we can start thinking about extensions we can have to our app. So one thing I had was maybe you can allow the user to set their own password and not just like have one that you hard code. Another idea is that maybe you can have a voice recognizer where the user can just say something and then that gets added into the list. So that's just tying back into kind of the components that we've used before in our other apps. A third idea is to have like a rating system where you can say how urgent each thing is, so like 1 to 5, and then it'll show up on the list view how urgent things are, so you can prioritize some tasks over others. Or you can have like a due date where you put in when that thing is due, and so you can make sure that you complete it before. That's just some ideas that you can play around with. I'd really encourage you guys to try it out. But I hope you had such a fun time building this app, and thanks for watching.